Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Archie's Briefings. I'm your host, Arshel Branch, and tonight, you guys, we are going to be talking about illegals. It seems to me that every single time we hear a story, this just seems to be getting worse and worse and worse. Some of the predictions that I've had about what was going to happen if it wasn't never dealt with by either the local administrations, whether you're talking about the state government or the federal government, that something was going to be done by the people. And it seems to me that that's exactly what's happening. And before we get into this episode, you go ahead and you like this video, share this video so that we can help out with the algorithm, and subscribe to the channel if you already haven't. So let's go ahead and let's talk about these damned illegals and why they need to get the hell out of our country. There is something that has been on my heart that I did want to discuss. Discipline is a huge part of being productive, being lucrative. I am not for anything that goes against true productivity, true sovereignty of the individual. The choices that we make are what's going to be up for judgment. Okay, you guys. So, as I said in the opening, we were going to be discussing illegals because now it seems like the American people are doing something about it. And it's not the everyday law abiding citizens. In fact, it's actually the gang members. Now, I don't know if you guys are fans or if you've watched my twin sister's podcast, Brazen Insights. She's talked about this as well, where she, like so many other Americans, are wondering, where are the American criminals in this? You know, you'll have the Congress who literally had an entire hearing talking about illegals, and the Democrats constantly kept saying that these are crimes being committed by Americans. That the more and more things that are being said about these illegals, it just seems to be problematic. That when President Trump gets on the debate stage and he talks about what's going on with illegals, that you have Haitians coming in and they are eating the cats and the dogs of the citizens of Ohio, the state of Ohio. And this is becoming a serious issue that we're just sitting here asking ourselves, where are the American criminals? You know, you'll have people on the Democrat side say that all these additional crimes that are being committed by Americans. That these are American crimes. I'm sorry, but when's the last time you saw an American black person eat a dog or eat a cat? When's the last time you heard about an American robber rob a store with a machete? Now, understand, people, this is one of the reasons why I and my twin sister left New Jersey, okay? Once we heard of this guy that the store owner around the corner got robbed by a man with a machete, that's not American crime. You know, I'm not saying that American crime is a good thing, but listen, a husband kills a wife or vice versa because they're looking for the insurance policy, not because it's an honor killing. I mean, come on, this is ridiculous. These are not American crimes, okay? They just don't do this. There's a high rise of sexual assaults on American women and American girls, and a lot of those cases were brought up at the hearing with Congress. And now, as many have said, you know, my sister and I included have both been saying, where the hell are the American criminals? Because it just seems to me that if I had to root for anybody, because the government doesn't seem to be doing anything, law enforcement doesn't seem to be doing anything, that it's going to be up to the American people, whether you are a law-abiding citizen or a criminal. And apparently, the criminal is more likely to handle their business before the American citizen, the law-abiding American citizen is. Because, you know, that's kind of the problem here. And we're armed for a reason, but now if you shoot an illegal, they're going to try to come after you. The federal government, the state government, the law enforcement is going to come after the American law-abiding citizen who defended themselves against an illegal because somehow there's something wrong with defending yourself. But the American criminals don't seem to mind that. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to run a clip of Fox News. Actually, it was Fox Lawrence. I forget his last name. He interviewed a former gang member who has his own organization trying to reduce the amount of criminal activity taking place in Chicago. And he had something to say to Lawrence. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to run that clip for you guys. Let's go ahead and let's do that, shall we? Okay, so before I get started, it says here at the bottom, turf war, question mark, Chicago gangs clash with Venezuelan gang members. That's pretty much what it's saying, right? So let's go ahead and let's run it, shall we?
Moving into Chicago have caught the attention of the city's local counterparts, bringing tensions to an all-time high. Our next guest is a former gang member who now runs a violence prevention program and warns that the city may go up in
Look at what this says from the New York Post. Chicago gangbangers rage against newly arrived Venezuelan migrants as Tren de Arruga, I'm assuming that's the name of the gang, moves in. City is going to go up in flames, which pretty much means that this is a declaration of war between the gangs in Chicago, the American gang members in Chicago against the Venezuelans. Let's go ahead and continue.
Flames, fearing an all-out turf war. Tyrone Muhammad is the founder and CEO of Ex-Cons for community and social change, and he's been kind enough to join us. Now, Tyrone, thanks so much for joining the program. So let's first, before we get into the criminal element, talk about the money that's being spent, because I know you talk about the community and building those Black communities and Hispanic communities in Chicago that were affected before this crisis. They're spending $464 million on this crisis. Can y'all be using that money somewhere else?
Hell yes.
You know, I don't know any household, Lawrence, where you yourself would pay my mortgage before you pay your own. That would be considered crazy. So that's the very fact that our government believe, with all the issues and systemic disinvestment that's happening to all these communities throughout America, that you were in our face when, for specifically Chicago, where Black voters have voted for one party consistently and religiously, that party would not listen to the voters or the community to say, us first, we should be first.
Exactly. Us first. We should be first. And that does say something. You know, you keep voting Democrat because you think you're going to get something different. You keep doing the same thing over and over again. It's literally the definition of insanity. This statement has become a damn cliche from conservatives speaking to Democrat voters. And it's quite obvious the people of Chicago are kind of fed up. And he's just talking about the money aspects here, right? He's just talking about the money. Over $400 million to go to migrants. This is ridiculous. Some of them are buying houses now. This is ridiculous. And now, you know, he's a former gang member, so, you know, you can understand there's a bit of, you know, literacy problems here. But he's quite clear to me, you know, literacy issues altogether. We understand what he's saying, that, you know, it'd be crazy for you to pay somebody else's mortgage before you paid your own. That is crazy. Why are you taking care of people who have no right to be here before you take care of us? It should be us first. We the people first. The resident of Chicago first. Why are you paying for these migrants before you take care of the people who live here, the Americans who live here? Come on. I'm gonna let him go on.
Put us first. And the very notion that anyone will have the audacity to think that non-citizens should go before the Black community and the most impoverished communities is asinine.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, it's really a slap in the face. So that's the first part of this problem.
Yep.
The second problem is that you got the gangs that are coming in now. Trinidad de Agua is now fighting with the local gangs, and this is on top of an already problem right now. You got robbery that's up 12%, aggravated battery is up 13%, motor vehicle theft is up 43%. And you inviting them in to go against now the local gangs already in Chicago. Explain to us what's happening on the ground.
So let me just say this. We just heard about a vice president who said she specialized in locking up and arresting transnational gangs, while the very party that she's a part of, the policies with the sanctuary cities and the border crisis, she support. And now the influx of which is oxymoronic at the same time. Now we have to fight transnational gangs and the influx of these men who we don't know where they come, what crimes they committed, and the violence that they've been involved with thus far. With that being said, we're on the front line every day, making sure that our communities are safe. And it's really not about the Black community. This is just the beginning, because violence anywhere is violence everywhere.
Right. Now, notice he was talking about Kamala Harris. You know, for a woman who says she went after gangbangers, you know, transnational gangbangers all over the world who come into the country, where are you on this, woman? Like, I'm going to do something when I'm the president. Woman, you are the vice president. You are the border czar. Where the hell are you? Because here's the thing. Understand, people, this is not like this is brand new, okay? The only way to win land is through a war. I mean, that this has just been the general consensus when you look historically, right? I mean, how did we obtain the United States? How do we even get from the colonies to the United States? We had to take the land from somebody that took a war. When the colonizers fought the Native Americans and they lost and the colonizers won, and then they were the colonies and then they were the United States. How are we able to bring California into the country? How are we able to make that happen? We took land from other people? How did Great Britain end up gaining so much of the land? They fought wars. They fought the Irish. They fought the Scottish. They took up the land. Like, this is, if you're going to take land, you have to fight for it. You're seeing this in Aurora, Colorado, when they're going into taking the property of buildings where the landlords are just ready to give up and hand it over because they don't want to deal with the Venezuelan gang members. You're seeing them take over property in New York. Short story, I had a conversation with a gentleman, and he was telling me that he was in New York. He was in Harlem specifically. He was talking to some of his old friends, and they had told him that they were in the middle of shootouts with Venezuelans. And they just walked over there and told them, oh, we taken this property. And they looked at him and said, who the F are you? And they ended up in a shootout, and the Venezuelans turned right around. Yeah, you ain't doing that in Harlem. You ain't doing that in Harlem. Like, black gangbangers, American crime, they're not just going to take this lightly. If there's any truth to Sons of Anarchy, if there's anything that we know about how one would obtain land, it's generally a war that is fought. And so we're seeing that played out now. If the federal government and state governments and local law enforcement are not going to do their jobs, then why should we be forced to suffer these crimes by these illegals? They shouldn't even be here. You're going to give them money. You're going to give them money to buy homes. You're going to give them money to buy properties and to build business and to buy businesses. You're going to kick them out of school so you can put illegals into schools. I mean, give up kids' school buses. I mean, I've covered some stories about illegals. I've covered some stories, and this is only getting worse. That when it comes to the sexual assaults, there was just a bill that was brought up and the vote was astounding. And the thing is, it's not like it was just Fox talking about this. There were other people that were talking about this as well. I'm going to play that because Valuetainment was talking about it too. And that should tell you something, that this is getting some traction, that, thank God for independent media, because to be honest with you guys, if it didn't exist, we wouldn't even know about these stories. The Black veteran woman who was denied money from the banks to build her business, but then the illegal got fronted by the federal government to buy her business. That California was considering giving thousands to illegals to buy homes. That in Portland, Oregon, that they had actually decided to give thousands of dollars to illegals to buy homes. That they are taking up properties all over the state and all over the country. And now here's the thing. This is also happening here in Pennsylvania. The first thing you got to do when you're invading a nation, the first rule of colonization is to wipe out the indigenous people or to replace them and to take up their resources and their property. That is what is happening. First they came in, now they're being given all these resources between education, healthcare, money to buy homes, rents, low income housing, like they're being given all of our resources. And now they're taking up the space by going into buildings and taking over buildings, by going into whole neighborhoods and trying to take over neighborhoods, to the point now where it is full out war over property that doesn't belong to really either of these gangs. But hey, we out here as law abiding citizens rooting for the American criminal. Because that's the world that they have put us in. That's the society that this federal government has put us in, where we got to root for the bad guy. It's like, I don't believe this whole gray area, anti-hero nonsense. I believe in good guys, bad guys, okay? Heroes and villains. But that only can exist if you live in a civilized society. And we just don't have that anymore. No thanks to this federal government. No thanks to Kamala Harris. When I hear people say they're going to vote for her anyway, not paying attention to the fact that you have a rising crime of illegals. It's like, oh, well, illegals don't really bother me. But they're taking up space. They're killing and harming American citizens. So what if it didn't touch you? It's touched thousands of other American citizens. But then they'll say that the conservative is selfish because they want to be capitalist. How am I the selfish one when I'm out here trying to make sure that innocent Americans don't suffer any more than they already have? And now we're looking forward to war between American gangbangers and illegals. We're rooting for criminals to take out the illegal criminal. That's the society that they have put us in, that we are now rooting for bad guys. That's what they've done. And can we even say that that's wrong? Can we say that that's wrong when this is the society that they put us in? Come on. What are we talking about? So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to run this clip from, Valuetainment because he's talking about it too. It's kind of impressive. Not so much impressive, but it's astounding to me.
Face off against newly arrived Venezuelan migrants. City is going to go up in flames. Rob, do you have the video? I think there's a video on this. If you have it, please get ready for it. I'm going to just read the story and we'll go to it. So Tyrone Mohammed, a former gangster discipline member, warned that the tensions between Chicago black gangs and newly arrived Venezuelan migrants, including the Tren de Aragua gang, could cause the city to go up in flames. Is this it, Rob?
It's a 4-minute clip, but we could start.
Give us a little bit of it. Let's watch this.
Has allowed gangs to enter our country.
The migrants that are coming, they're taking over every block right now.
The city of Chicago is going to go up in smoke. It's going to go up in flames.
Gangs in Chicago are angry over the influx of migrants and criminals in their city.
Gangs in Chicago.
They say money that should be going to the African-American community on the South Side is instead going to what they call non-citizens, and warn that turf wars,
Excuse my language. I'm sorry. They're pissing me off.
between Chicago's gangs and groups like Venezuela's Tren de Aragua could see Chicago, quote, go up in flames. Photographer Matt McDermott and I traveled to Chicago's South Side to see what was happening for ourselves after we heard about a police report last month that the Tren de Aragua gang had taken over an office building there. We spoke to a number of young, hardcore gang members, as well as gang elders who have retired from the life, and just regular citizens who are very much part of the community. And they're all furious at the
I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that? Explain to me what I'm supposed to do with that. That when you have activists, I don't know her full name, but everybody refers to her as JJ. She's been all over Twitter. She goes to the city council meetings, and she told the mayor of Chicago, if you do not handle this, the streets are going to handle their business because we black out here, is what she said. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Y'all have seen those clips, and she goes viral every single time she gets into one of those council meetings. It always turns into something. Save your dignity, save yourself, save your soul, save your seat. She's always saying this to the people who are in those positions, and they just don't do anything about it. But she said her very first city council viral clip, we black out here, the streets are going to handle their business because it's quite clear and obvious to everybody that they are not doing their parts. What are we supposed to do with that? I'm out here rooting for the criminals. You go into the comment sections on the Fox News clip. Okay. I went into the comment sections on that particular clip, and they were saying, I never thought that I would be rooting for American criminals. I never thought that I would be rooting for American gang members. I never thought that I would be excited about a war on our own home soil if it means protecting our sovereignty. Some are saying that they never thought that they would live long enough to see war on our own home soil, because we're pretending like that's not what this is. We're pretending that this is not an invasion. We're pretending that this isn't about to be a war. Okay. In Pittsburgh, they're taking up property and taking jobs and kicking kids out of schools. Across the country, they are taking kids out of their schools, taking away their transportation to get to schools because they're replacing the students with illegals. They're giving them our resources. They're taking up buildings. They had a full shootout in Harlem, and the Harlem gangbangers were not for it. I was the person who said I always felt comfortable crossing the street whenever I saw a black gangbanger in New York, whether we're talking about Harlem, whether we're talking about Brooklyn. I always avoided the Bronx at night, which is why I only did day games for the Yankees. I never did a night game because it gets dangerous in the Bronx. I always stayed away from the Bronx unless it was daytime. That was just how it was. If I saw a group of gangbangers who were black, I crossed the street where I saw the police officers. I felt safe with the cops than I did the black gangbangers. We've now gotten to the point where, now I'm going to walk the side of the road, walk the side of the sidewalk where the black gangbangers are, because if there is an illegal at the end of the street, the cops are not going to do a damn thing. Whose fault is that? Now, it's not because I don't believe the cops don't want to do their jobs, but because the local law enforcement are given stand-down orders. We obviously know that Kathy Hochul doesn't give a damn about the lives of her police officers, nor does she give a damn about her citizens of the state of New York. We know that Eric Adams has been given more money, and people who worked for him are under investigation. People who are working for Kathy Hochul are under investigation for being Chinese spies. You've let people who are potential cannibals, but we know for a fact are eating cats, dogs, and the undomesticated animals by the ponds. You know that they're taking up areas and property all throughout the country between Ohio, Denver, Colorado, Aurora, Colorado. When you look at New York as well, you know that there are several illegals who have been charged with sexual assault of not just adult women, but also minors as well, whether you're talking male or female. They have taken over an office building in Chicago. You're giving them money to buy houses, to build and buy businesses. This is an invasion. You keep giving them the resources because they're trying to replace the American people with a voting class, which is why, they're trying to have us, trying to have them vote in this election coming up. This is why they're letting them do this. No different than when they told Black Americans, we were going to give you all of these benefits to voting Democrat, and then they'll be voting for us for the next 100 years. And now these are people that they could literally say, if we find out, because they can, who you voted for and it wasn't the Democrat, we're just going to kick you out of the country. So it's not only you have to worry about the fact that the non-criminal illegal alien is going to do what they're told just to stay in the country, but you also have to deal with the criminal element that's also here. I'm sick and tired of seeing stories about women and children and young boys who have been sexually assaulted. The fact that it's taken this long to even get to a turf war. Land is only won by human beings, in this case, historically speaking, through war, bloodshed. It takes bloodshed to own the land, to take it. It takes bloodshed. That's just what it's been, from how we got to the 13 colonies and became the United States and not a part of Britain, because we could have been Britannia if we'd lost the American Revolution. That took a war. That took death. That took bloodshed, okay? If we are talking about maintaining our sovereignty, it seems like this is going to be an uphill battle. This is looking like it's going to be a war. The only way that we are able to maintain our sovereignty and keep our country and maintain the identity of what it means to be an American, it's going to take a war, because that's what this looks like. And the gangbangers seem to be willing to do that. Again, the activist in Chicago, JJ, has been saying the streets are going to handle their business if the state isn't going to do their part. And can we really sit here and say that she's wrong for that? You got people in the comments saying, I never thought I would be rooting for the criminal. That's the society that they have put us in. In a civilized society, there are good guys and there are bad guys. There are heroes and there are villains. There is none of this gray area nonsense. There is none of this anti-hero. Sorry, but if anti means opposite and it says anti-hero, then it means opposite hero, not the good guy. You're not going to convince me otherwise, but that's the society that they've created. So are we wrong for not not condemning the American criminal, for fighting for what is theirs? Because now they're not just fighting for turf against other American criminals, because then you can say it's petty, right? They're actually fighting for sovereignty at this point. In my opinion, I think that the gangbangers who are American, if you're Bloods, Crips, you should table whatever your differences are, because fighting for territory that is not really yours unless you actually own the properties and the sidewalks. If you own it, then hey, don't come on my block. I own it. I don't like you. Just to keep the peace. Hey, they do that. This is just to my knowledge from the movies I've seen, the based off of real life stories of the people who are in these gangs. That's what you see. Keeps the peace. It keeps them from having those problems. But this is not even like, this is red versus blue anymore. This is y'all gonna have to put aside your differences. Instead of being red versus blue, you red, white, and blue, and you fight in these damn illegals. And it seems like they're willing to do it. They're saying that this city is going to be in flames. They're going to fight it out. They are officially fighting for sovereignty. Because if there's any truth to what the gentleman I spoke to said about what he had a conversation about, he spoke to an old friend of his who was a part of the life. And he said, they came into the area. They tried to take the property. They tried to take up the neighborhood. They were like, oh, we're taking this. We're taking this. And he said, no, you're not. And they were shooting it out. Venezuelans turned around. I shouldn't be rooting for that. I shouldn't be excited about the fact that they had the shootout. I shouldn't be excited about the fact that it took that kind of violence to get them out. But then again, I was born and raised in a civilized time. I shouldn't be excited about it. We should not be excited about war on our home soil, because that's what this is. They're taking up space. This is an invasion. This is an invasion. I keep hitting the microphone because I'm pissed. Yo, I'm heated. This is an invasion. This is an invasion. It's a war that's going on right now, and they just won't say the words. I don't need Congress to declare it, because it seems to me the American criminals have already done that. This is a war. I don't need Congress or the federal government or even the state and local governments to say this is a war. This is what it is. Historically speaking, every single time it's about land, it's always a war. You see that with Israel and the Palestinians. It's always about land. It's always about land. It's a war. Some will say that this is just petty, that land is a petty reason to slaughter people. It's like, this is just human nature. This is where we are today. And, I'd love to say that because I'm from a civilized time, that I would never root for the criminal. But if the things that keep us civilized are not doing their jobs to maintain civility, then we kind of have to look forward to the bandit stopping the other bad guys, don't we? We got to look forward to the bandit, to the criminal saving our sovereignty. This is not even America anymore. If that's where we're at, to be American is supposed to be civilized, to be informed, to be educated, to be decent human beings. Then we lock up the bad guys and we remove the crazy out of society. We just don't do that anymore. We're looking forward to the criminal, the American criminal, going to war with the illegal because the federal government isn't doing it. Do you think you should support them? I don't like that this is a situation. I'm supporting them. I hope they win. If they win, that means they get the Venezuelans out. If they win, it means they manage to save the neighborhood from at least that type of violence. Take over their turf, take over their property, take that office building in Chicago. That'd be nice. Watch every war show you could possibly find and figure out how you're going to get that done. Y'all are soldiers out here now, not just gangbangers. So, hey, let me know in the comment sections. You guys can follow me on Instagram at Archie Financial. You can follow me on Twitter at Archie_finance. And you can follow me on LinkedIn at Arshel Branch. This is crazy. This is out of time of civility. I don't need Congress to declare war because the Venezuelans already have the moment they decided to take up property and aim guns at the American people. That's enough. So, thank you all for watching. God bless and Kepler.